Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. Wow, we are really excited to have our guest today, Mr. Chuck Cohen. Mr. Chuck Cohen is a fellow Quaker. We both have that in common. We spent some time in Philly, and he didn't leave, I don't think. He still lives in Pennsylvania, but let's go through it. Chuck is a managing director of Benco. It's a family business, which a lot of you really probably don't know. We're going to get into that. He's a third generation leader in his family owned business. Chuck has dedicated his career to supporting dental professionals across the nation, understanding the guidance. Benco has remained committed to customer first principles, ensuring the dental practices receive the resources and support they need. And I'm not going to read this. I'm going to tell you this. I spoke to Chuck right before we started. This man knows the landscape of dentistry. He understands the business. And we as dental owners, it's been a great run, but at the same token, costs and costs and costs. Everything we're doing costs more. Staff costs more. Our insurance is compensating us more. Can we raise our prices and commensurate with what's going on in our life? I don't know, but we're going to get into it with a lifer who really understands the business. Without further ado, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Chuck, thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and I love your podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I really want to get into the family. It's really a dynamic I really would have loved in my lifetime to have worked, may he rest in peace, with my dad in some capacity. But I guess the first question I have before you get into is, how is it working with family?
Most days it's fabulous.
Right.
Some days it's stressful. And then there are the topics we just don't talk about.
There you go.
Okay. Just like Thanksgiving dinner in your house. Let's start with the business.
That's right. Okay, great. So hiring, firing, we leave that off. So tell me about how the Cohen family, for third generation that you stand, owns such a great business and are really a pillar in the dental community.
Well, thank you very much. So my grandfather, Ben, hence the name Benco, started as a traveling salesperson 100 years ago in 1924. He was a Russian immigrant, and he started really as a traveling salesperson. His first line was Premier Instruments, still in business today. And then 6 years later, in 1930, he opened up a very small dental depot in northeastern Pennsylvania to serve the dentists of Pennsylvania. And then, of course, dentistry has changed dramatically since then. From that point, 1930 till today, we have grown to be the third largest dental dealer in the country. We've got about 1,600 employees. Between Ben and me and my brother, my father ran the business for about 30 years. And together we've built the business that we're very proud of. And we serve a profession that we're very proud to serve. That's really the big key to our success, whether it was accidental or on purpose. And I probably think more accidental than anything. My grandfather picked the right business to go into, also, which was dentistry.
Great.
Love dentists and love dentistry.
Great. Any thought for the family as you grown and matured as a company to go into different avenues like some of your competitors?
So we've talked about that a lot, and we're really happy to be the largest business that's only focused on dental. When you look at Shine or Patterson,
right,
even a number of the vendors, the manufacturers out there, we believe we are the largest independent company in the business focused only on dentistry and the largest distributor focused only on dentistry. We think that gives us a competitive advantage because we can customize our solutions just for dentists. We don't have to worry about veterinarians. We don't have to worry about physicians. We can just focus on dentists and dentistry. And we think that that allows us to be a better customer partner.
So I know, Benco, do you do the rep thing? Do you have field reps and go out there? Just want to know, my listeners should know they can get a rep in their office, because I think that's something I miss personally.
So we have operations across the United States. We have reps and field technicians, and we are full service. So think about Shine or Patterson, but we think we do it a little bit better, but a similar business model. We are not the cheapest in the market. We think we're very competitive, and we think our array of solutions is the best. And those solutions are really what enable us to help our customers the most.
How does a company like Benco, just trying to get a landscape to understanding what I've been through in my years of running businesses, practices, a lab, so all the stuff that I've done, how does Benco really compete with some of these, like a Shine, and yet they stay true to their principles, and they seem to be really, what we see in Shine is buying every little Tom, Dick, and Harry on the market. Everything you turn around, it's owned by Shine. But Benco stayed true to the principles of fulfilling orders to dentists and giving them, we're going to get into cost elevation. We're going to get into owning and running a business and what you could lend to some of our doctors that maybe some things we don't do in our own practices. But how did you stay true to that without wanting to just expand?
So the first thing is I would say I have nothing but positives to say about Henry Schein and even Patterson. They're very well run and they're public companies and they do what they need to do to make the public markets happy.
Right.
What we do at Benco, we think that's different is because we're a private business and because we're family owned, we get the privilege, and I say privilege on purpose, to think in decades, not quarters. So I don't worry about what earnings we're going to show Wall Street in 2 months or 3 months.
Right.
We don't worry about that at all. Our most important metric at Benco is customer satisfaction. Our second most important metric is market share. We really gauge our success by those two numbers. Do we make money? Of course we make money, because without making money, you don't stay in business. But our most important metric is customer satisfaction. We believe that we've got the best customer experience in the business, and that comes from long-term thinking, really smart solutions-based thinking, and really focusing on what we can do to help our customers win in the market and be more successful. I'll share one data point with you. When people ask me what makes Benco different, like what's the difference in our DNA, what I always answer is we co-travel. What that means is that our executives are in the car with our reps or our technicians on a regular basis. Every senior executive at Benco needs to be in the field no less than 8 days a year and mostly once a month.
And we might just tell the listeners, by the way, if you have a tube out, a cuspidor that needs repairing, Mr. Chuck Cohen will rock the law. Albuquerque, maybe, pick a place. So if you pick a place,
you may actually find me. Now, the good news is when I'm with a service technician, I know better than to try to use a tool because that's not my thing. But I stand around and look really pretty all the time.
There you go. All the time. I think that's why they hired him very young.
Good looks. But I would say that getting in the field really makes the difference, because you can sit in your office and talk about what you think is happening. But our management, our leadership team really sees what's happening on a day-to-day basis. We understand the challenges the customers face. We understand what role we play in their practices, and we really get a good feel for how we can craft the solutions that are going to make a difference for their business.
Would you consider yourselves now more of a boutique? I mean, the way you just described, and the way I always looked at it was, Schein and Patterson are going after the big kahunas, but Dr. Main Street, Dr. Park Street, Dr. William Street, he's not looking. I mean, I went out to dinner last night in Chicago. We're at the Chicago Midwinter, and we're sitting here with Chuck Cohen from Benco, and this is phenomenal. But I went out to dinner with a very local, just a wonderful, you all right? Wonderful, he probably has a deal with Bubbly, Benco's new supplier. Guys got to watch out for these guys. They're slick. But, we went out with a private, a 3-chair guy in Chicago. What a view, gorgeous, overlooking Lake Michigan, overlooking the city. But he's happy. He's in his late 60s. He's happy producing, making, doesn't want to buy. Is that fair to say Benco is dealing more with that? Or do you also deal with the groups like they do?
So we would break the market down into 3 categories. The most obvious one, of course, is what we would call IDPs, or independent dental practices. That's Dr. Smith and Dr. Jones.
Right.
We are very strong in that segment. One level up from that would be what we call mid-markets. That's an individual entrepreneurial dentist who maybe owns 5 or 10 practices. I don't know if you know anyone that fits that bill.
Thank you.
And then the largest category would be the large DSOs, the Heartlands, the Aspens, the Guardians, hundreds or more of practices. We are very strong in the first 2. The last category really is dominated by Henry Schein.
Yeah.
We can talk about why. It's not really important.
Right.
Rather than saying we're a boutique, I think we are the best solution out there for the mid-markets and the independent dental practices. I think we're very good for the large DSOs, but it tends not to be the segment that we can do the best in, so we tend to stay the other 2.
Right.
I don't love the word boutique, to be honest. I think of us if you were thinking about retail.
It has a connotation of expensive.
Small, expensive and small. Yeah, those 2 words. When we think about the way I think of Benco is not really the Nordstroms, but more the Target. Like, we've got very high quality products. We've got very fair pricing. We like to do business with everybody. You can find people in Target who are at the bottom of the economic pyramid all the way up to the top. I'd like to think that Target, sort of a little bit more creative, more focused on the customer, is where we are. I don't think we're Walmart. I love Walmart, but we're not Walmart. But I don't think we're Nordstrom's or a small boutique either.
The reason I said boutique is because the caring that it sounds like you guys have, and the really customer interaction, which we're going to get into in a second, just sounds like somebody in a company that really cares that Dr. Jones hits his goal. Well, cares, and you are trying to help him get there.
There's no doubt that I would say, yes, we plead guilty to caring, and we care more. The metric that I'll share with you is We are very religious about tracking our Net Promoter Score. NPS, Net Promoter Score, is the number one measure of customer satisfaction around the world in every industry. Net Promoter Score works on a scale of 0 to 100. Our Net Promoter Score is 72. If you were to Google Net Promoter Score, you'd find that 72 is about as world-class as you can find. It's on the realm of Apple. It's at the level of USAA.
Wow.
It's a little higher than Amazon, to be honest. Our understanding is at least several of our competitors track the same number. They don't report it, though, because their numbers are in the 50s. So we report ours every year in our
Number
annual
one
report,
why?
and we really believe that our Net Promoter Score reflects that higher level customer experience.
That's, to me, when I walk into a Target or I walk into a boutique, I don't even care about the price. I care about the person caring for me. So that's the thing. Let's get into this crazy raise of dental expenses right now. You're in a city like mine, New York or Florida or Michigan, or rents are going crazy. Staffing since COVID has been off the charts. Hygienists are starting to ask for close to 60. Assistants are asking 28 to 30 in some cities. Dental expenses, dental supplies, chairs, this. You have to go to China to buy those knockoffs. Or how does Benco deal with doctors that are calling them and go, Chuck, or their reps, how do you help me? I am swimming. Do you get in? Is there a granular level by doc? When's the last time you checked your fee schedule? Or why you accept insurance company? What could the supplier who's really, listen, you're in business with them, because if you lose all the private practices to DSOs, you're all competing for one name, one guy. So
absolutely. Well, before we get into how we do it, I want to throw one other element in there that you didn't mention, which is, as we record this podcast, there's a lot of talk in the United States around tariffs. I don't want to make this a political conversation, but what I will say is that if the federal government, and right now we're sort of in a pause phase on tariffs, but if the federal government is serious about 25% tariffs from countries like Canada, the European continent, and Mexico, that's going to also drive up the cost of products, because there's no way to hide the tariffs in the price. So yes to everything you said as far as what's driving this issue, and we have tariffs looming that also may make it worse. So there's three things that I think we can do, and we do on a regular basis, to really help doctors deal with this rising cost. Because if you were to ask most of the doctors on the show floor, I think what they would say is, we are trapped. We are stuck. We are trapped between our fees that don't go up because the insurance companies keep them down, and our expenses that keep going up every year, whether it's supplies or people or lab, everybody. So we feel squeezed. That's the word that we would use. So there's three things that we can do, and we do at Benco, to help doctors who feel squeezed. Number one is, we've got a wide array of products where you can shop among the products and find products that may be less expensive but do the same job. And the best example of that is our private brands. We've got one of the most extensive private brand arrays in the business. And a lot of times the private brands are less expensive but perform just as well as the major brands. So number one is, how can we help you select a better product or a cheaper product that does the same thing? The second thing we do is we really focus on helping doctors be more efficient. When we can help you be more efficient, then you can see more patients in the same amount of time. So there's a couple examples I give you. There's lots of ways, but number one is, a lot of the technology solutions out there actually help offices be more efficient. Perhaps it's a mill or a 3D printer. If we can take a 2-appointment visit and make it a 1-appointment visit, you're charging the same fee whether the patient comes back a second time. That improves efficiency. If we're moving from an impression material to an intraoral scanner, that makes the practice more efficient. If we can cut 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes out of a hygiene appointment, that makes the practice more efficient. So, and I'll give you one example that's kind of a low-tech example, but it's one that I happen to be personally in love with. Is, most doctors have the opportunity to improve the efficiency of their sterilization area, whether it's upgrading their sterilizers to have them work faster, adding an instrument washer, or changing the design. So when you think about efficiency of a dental practice, most offices don't go, wow, that's really holding me back. But every single instrument that you use in a dental practice goes through that sterilization center. With the cost of salaries going up so much and the cost of instruments going up so much, imagine what the impact of the practice might be if we can sit down and say, hey, how can we make your sterilization area 15% more efficient, right? That's a game changer for a dental practice, but it's not sexy. It's not sexy like a 3D CBCT. Right. It's not sexy. But adding an instrument washer, our study shows, will cut the time for sterilization by 10 or 15%, just one machine. It's a redesign, it's an investment, but it plays a huge dividend and enables you to hire the best staff because the best staff want to work with the best equipment. So that's an example. The second category,
Doctors as well.
absolutely. Doctors don't spend that much time in sterilization in general.
No, but in general,
Agreed. And so the second one is, what can we do to improve efficiency? And doctors who are interested in those solutions are our favorite kind of doctors. And then finally, we really can help on the revenue side with revenue cycle management. In 2023, we purchased a company called PPO Profits. They're one of the leaders in revenue cycle management and insurance fee negotiations. We purchased them. They've been in business about 10 years. They're now a division of Benco, and we oftentimes refer our customers to PPO Profits. The investment is generally $7,000. The payback is monstrous because it's not really true that there's nothing a dental practice can do on the revenue side of the practice. Most of the time, we can renegotiate fees, change the way you're billing, even add medical billing, which changes the game dramatically for a lot of procedures, to increase the revenue to the practice without changing its practice profile, without changing the time, without adding more procedures. Same amount of dentistry,
And without
more revenue.
fees.
No, same amount of dentistry, saves.
My first reaction would be increased fees.
Well, you can increase fees, but you have to be strategic, and that's why you need help. The fact is, unless you're an expert, it's very hard to figure out how to increase fees. We are the experts who help dentists increase their fees.
Like I said before, you might be more for like you said, the private practice and those, but it really is. I mean, you're preventing people, because what is the number one reason why a dentist would sell other than money is because they're burnt. They got to deal with all these things that you just mentioned.
Yep.
And you're bringing these tools almost like an MBA type style to just really explain to us, the dentists at chairside in working with our business, of everything that's going on. We could find these revenue streams for you that you never thought you had because you're not doing it right. We can absolutize. And
our favorite solution is to take a dentist who feels squeezed and help him get out of that, or her get out of that, because there's really no reason for dentists to feel that way. In my opinion, I've been in this business 30 years and my family for almost 100. There's never been a better time to be an independent dentist. Now, that doesn't mean you can be a poor operator, but if you're interested and willing to make the investments and learn how dentistry works, there's never been a better time to be an independent dentist in America.
really,
Truly believe that.
and not many people think that way.
It's the golden age of dentistry. We just sometimes don't recognize it. But again,
Now, I understand what you said, but the golden age of dentistry really is because people think there's a magic number at the end of the rainbow and I can get a lot of money. Now, 3 years ago, I sold a group and it was like magic age of dentistry. But I tend to agree with you. I think there's the last few years where the groups sort of pencils down and everything is being minimized. It's the private practices that withstood seems to be walking a little happier.
no question. Get the large groups. What I think you'll see, and I'll give you a couple of evidence points for it, is that business model is not working that well. One of the evidence points I'll give you is I don't think it's a coincidence that none of these large groups have gone public. They've not issued stock in the stock market. And it's not because I don't think they want to. It's because I think their business model has some flaws to it. So they're not going public. They're private equity teams, and this has been documented in a lot of places, seem to be stuck in their investments.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to get their money out with a profit. At the same time, the growth of the mid-markets means that if you're an entrepreneurial dentist and you're willing to invest in dentistry, it's the sweet spot. You get the best of both worlds. You get the leverage, the economies of scale of having multiple practices, and you can make a lot of money, and you can still be a clinician, and you can still be an entrepreneur.
Well,
At the same time, if you want to just run one practice, I say, just if you want to run one practice and do it well, you can be as successful as you want to be. That doesn't mean there's not challenges. There's challenges in every business in America. But if you get the right helpers and you're willing to work at it a bit, independent dentistry is a fabulous career.
what else has Benco? Comes to mind. I mean, you have such a great knowledge of the industry. It's really impressive and enlightening. It's good to know that you're one of the top 3 suppliers to us, knows so much about us. That's very nice.
No job.
That's right.
And I started here. I'll go back to as many times as you want. We love dentists. We are flattered and proud to serve the dental community. It's a fabulous group of people, and they appreciate a high level of service.
What is your cost stand? I mean, you alluded to it. You're not the cheapest, but you you balance that out with service, right? Doctor satisfaction. There all the time, helping these. How do you deal with these repair guys? Is it Benco retained? Is it designated or
So all of us,
curious?
sure, all of our technicians work only for Benco. They're no independent consults, work only for Benco.
Know that.
They're in a truck that's owned by Benco, and they use parts that come from Benco, and they're all factory trained. We believe that's the right way to get your equipment repaired. Our job is to arrive quickly, take care of the problem, get you back up and running as soon as we can. And we think we do a good job with that. Across the United States, we've got roughly 320 service technicians servicing dentists every day. And we're really proud of that. Or they're installing the equipment. The equipment,
Probably the latter.
well, listen, either one is fine with us. The equipment purchase is one of the most complicated decisions that a dentist will make during his or her career. And we're very happy that we think that we do that better than anyone. And as far as our cost is concerned, I mean, I think we're competitive with China.
You design, you
We do everything. We think our costs are, our go-to-market price is very similar. Where we think our difference is we've got better people who can help the doctor save money. Because the best employee you don't have to pay in your dental practice is your sales rep. Your sales rep is aligned with trying to get you the best deal he can or she can, trying to make sure you run the best practice that you can. And so your supply rep, for very little to no money, is actually making a difference for every practice. And we'd like to think we've got the best reps and the best technicians in the business.
Just to come full circle a little bit, because as a dental or business owner, you have certain things you look at, this
PPO products,
right? So, but is there certain percentages you go in, your people go in and just discuss with the doctor saying, Doc, we looked at your P&L, we evaluated your business, your supply bill is high, people are wasting material because it shouldn't be this high. Do you direct that? Do you come in with that? Like sort of like an MBA type of, I'm just bringing it to you because you obviously hit it from that side, and it's great to have that.
So in general,
Pretty impressed. That's why I'm asking, Neil, and I've been doing it.
The national average is about 6.2% of gross production spent on supply.
Right.
Most of our customers are down at about 5.5 or lower.
Wow.
That's based on our internal data, and we have a lot of success. And the way we do that is not a secret. It's selecting the right products, making sure you're getting the right deals, making sure there's not too much waste, and making sure you're taking advantage of every offer and special that's out there, how to leverage the purchasing power you already have. Most individual dentists don't think they have any purchasing power. It's not true. You have a fair amount of purchasing power, even as an individual office. The trick is to figure out how to leverage it and get your sales rep to help.
That's great. What do you see in the next 12 to 18 months as the next big hurdle or cost factor? We had some security people on the cybersecurity and really, button down and protect your asset. What do you think some of these larger expenses are coming at us in dental practice around the country in the next year or two?
The thing that makes me the most nervous is the tariffs, probably because it's the thing that we watch the closest. I would even feel better if, as a nation, we could figure out a plan for tariffs, but it's really distracting when one day we have tariffs going on, or one day we have tariffs. So that's the item that we're watching the closest because it's an important part of what we do. After that, I really think, I don't want to ruin anybody's day. I just want to say, there's no way that staff costs are going to go down anytime soon.
Yeah.
So anything we can do as an industry, as a profession, to get more productivity out of the staff we already have. Maybe that's technology, maybe it's 3D printing.
How do you feel about that? How's Benco dealing with that?
Well, the way we're doing it,
AI realm, the big...
we sell AI products. We're baking AI into what we do. We're trying to be more efficient in what we do. We're trying to make sure that we've got the right solutions for offices so that they can really leverage things. But it really starts with the doctor saying, wow, instead of complaining how much we're paying hygienists or assistants, let's own it and let's say we want to hire the best ones, and then we want to give them the best solutions, the best products, the best equipment, so we can take advantage of their efficiencies. If you're going to hire the best people, then they should be able to deliver the best outcomes. So I think there's too many dentists who are still thinking, oh my God, we're going to go back to paying XYZ person $15 an hour. It's not happening. There's just not enough hygienists and not enough assistants.
Was it the COVID? Was it the groups? Was it just somebody can come to work for me as, let's say I'm Dr. Main Street. I give them 25, they go to a group, they get 26, and they get benefits. These groups, because to your point, it's tough for them to see that huge profit. They just priced all of the dentists to getting top quality, and anybody that thinks they're good, they're not going to accept a job unless they had been burnt. A lot of people come back after working for a group, and they don't want to work for a group anymore. Not every group is bad. So how do you see that happening?
I think the cause of where we are now is probably the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think the pandemic took more people out of the profession than we thought. But I think the other thing that we don't talk about enough is if it weren't for the pandemic, I still think we'd be having a shortage because the dirty little secret is most of these staff members were aging and we don't have a good pipeline for replacing them. What we need to do as a profession is figure out how to get more young people, especially people from lower incomes, to consider assisting in hygiene in their career plans. If you go to an inner city, if you go to a place that's a little bit poor, and you say to them, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Some of these high school students, what I want them to do is say, I want to be a dental assistant. I want to be a hygienist. I want to go for 2 years to learn a trade, and the trade is dentistry. And the answer is the pandemic, I think, accelerated things, but I think we'd still be in a similar situation, maybe the frog boiling in the water thing, but a little less hot. But we'd be in the same situation, I think, even if it weren't for the pandemic. It's just accelerated.
And how do you feel? I mean, just a great understanding. How do you feel about the AI? How do you feel about all that's coming on? I mean, like an Overjet, a Pearl, these are companies that are out there. I mean, is Benco banking on these things? Are they putting something out that really help the doctors inspire patients to do more treatment? I think, when you have 65% of treatment plans accepted, if you go 10% better with either visuals, explanations, AI, models, whatever it is, and better communication skills, I think that does take care of a lot of issues if you could just raise your efficiency, to your point. How does Benco look at the changing world of AI and all that?
I'll answer the question first, but then I want to gently push back on something else. Number one is we resell Overjet. We're a dealer for Overjet. We love Overjet. It's a great product. We're working on baking AI into things like imaging products we sell and other things. And we're also using AI internally to lower our costs. So AI is going to change dentistry, but I don't think as much as 3D printing will. I think AI will make a difference, but the big change that's coming and is in the process of rolling out that I don't think we recognize exactly is 3D printing is going to change most everything about dentistry. Because all of the restorations at some point in the future are going to be 3D printable in the office. That technology is changing so quickly, it's hard for us to even manage it. Even faster, in my opinion, than AI is in dentistry. That said, AI is certainly going to change them, but in dentistry, 3D printing is going to change it more. Now, the one thing I want to push back on is I think that the treatment plan acceptance number that you quote is probably correct. My observation, though, is the problem with treatment planning is not that the patient doesn't say yes. I think the bigger problem or challenge is many doctors don't feel confident to do the treatment plan. And when they get busy, I think they shy away from things that are too complicated. They look in the patient's mouth and they know what should be done.
Kool-Aid.
Right. So I think there's an answer for it, which I'm happy to hear about, but I think there's this legend out there that if we can just get dentists to increase their treatment plan acceptance rate, it would sort of solve all the ills. I don't think that's it at all. I think the reason the treatment plan acceptance rate is 65%, if it is, and I don't know the number,
that high.
But whatever the number is, it's a number.
Yep.
The reason it's not 10% higher is not because the doctors can't get the patients to say yes. It's because the doctors aren't confident that they can do that if you can do the treatment. They shy away from
treatment. You're saying educate our dentists better, and that's what we talk about here. I have a program called the Dental Hamsa. The Dental Hamsa has clear aligners, root canal therapy, crown and bridge cosmetics, surgical extraction, bone grafting, and implant placement. What about Benco creating, a continuing education? Now, forgive me, I want you to speak about it, but I don't know about it.
So we certainly do some continuing education, but what we do on this area more than anything is partner with Seattle Study Club. We're huge fans of Seattle Study Club because Seattle Study Club really helps every dentist work as part of a specialist GP network to really deliver a better treatment outcome for the patients. So we do some CE, that's true, but when it comes to something like adult orthodontics, I really think Seattle Study Club has that really figured out, because what you figure out is many treatments should start with adult orthodontics, but too many dentists are scared or don't know how to use adult.
I call that the curse of the multiple choice. All our life, we've been giving multiple choice questions. We took boards, we took tests, we took licensing degree exams. We always had A, B, C, and all of the above. Now I see some of my young docs go, Mary, you could do the crown, or we could put I said, why, would my orthopedist give me a choice? They're going to have to splint it or what? Please give the vet, and you're right, because it's what they're comfortable with. If I don't like a root canal and I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to take the tooth out.
Exactly.
And that, to me.
And never say it to the doc. Never say it to the patient. Just do it.
Of course.
Perfect. Now, we have a name for that in our world, which we work with Seattle Study Club on, which is we hate the specialty called chirodontics. Herodontics is when every GP thinks he's a hero or she's a hero and they can do everything themselves. The right way to do a complex treatment is to work with a specialist team that everyone does what they do and they treatment plan together. So whether it's, as you say, giving the best option to the patient or getting more confident about the dental treatment you're going to do because you're working with a team of specialists, either way, that's the secret. And that is what we need to get to.
I think the future of dentistry is more with the education of a lot of vendors. Some of these implant companies give amazing root canal therapy, clear aligners, right? I mean, they give tremendous education. The GPs that are coming out now, and, I had, as I mentioned to you before, we talked to some doctor about this prior, and we really talked about the first 5 years of somebody's career. They should really dive deep into their wares, their communication skills, their posture, the way they read x-rays, their ability to perform great dentistry, because there's no great practice without a great dentist, in my opinion. I think dentists can talk their way, but eventually things do break and things do need to be redone and reputations are affected. I think the educational component is huge.
100%. And I would add to it, what nobody really has been talking about, and I'm hoping has changed, is during the pandemic, our dental schools really didn't turn out really highly educated dentists. And I don't want to, sort of get all over the dental schools because they had the pandemic and they couldn't go over the vision they do. And it was a hard time to deal with it. I'm hoping that as a profession, we can get back to the days of trained dental students who become excellent dental clinicians because they get a good foundation in dental school. And I think we're on our way back to that.
We are. I think the dentists that are coming out now are people that want to be more well-rounded. I think they're not that little, stuck in the back, let Mary handle my front desk. They're very much a CEO of their practice. And there's a lot of us that have been through the field for 30 years that are preaching those things. And I think it's kudos to you guys. And kudos to you having such an unbelievable understanding of the profession. I think that's amazing. I think that's really shows a lot about what Benco really wants to do and help the clinician in the practices. So it's great.
We love dentists and we love dentistry.
And we love them. They love very good. But let me ask you something, Chuck, before you leave.
Absolutely.
Right? What do you think, other than what we've discussed, what do you think some of the pitfalls are opening a practice right now? If you had a younger brother coming out of dental school or a son or somebody down the road, would you say go into dentistry if you didn't have Benco? Or, would you say dentistry, I know you love us, would you say it's still a great profession? And what would you direct them to do? Obviously, you're not a group guy. You feel there's more latitude, more pivoting, more success in the future if you own your own business. What would you suggest?
So I do suggest it actually. So it comes up a lot because I've got a lot of friends and they have kids who, and a lot of times the kids say, I want to go to medical school. And I say, don't go to medical school, go to dental school. It's a much better outcome. So I always recommend dental school. I think dentistry has right now, one of the benefits that we don't talk enough about is there are more ways to be a dentist than ever before. You can be a clinician working for another player, like a large DSO, if you want to just be an 8 to 5 dentist. You can own your own practice as one practice. You can own multiple practices and be a mid-market player. I'll talk about that. If you have an entrepreneurial bent, you can be a dentist who's a clinician at a dental school. You could be a thought-leading expert. There are more ways to be a dentist than ever before. And I would throw in there, dentistry has a specific carve-out that I don't think we value enough, and it is this one. If I'm a regular person off the street and I want to open a drugstore and compete with Walgreens, I can do that. I can open any drugstore. I can open 10. I can open a chain. I can open a bike store. I can open a paint store. What I can't do is open a dental practice. And I think that's really something we overlook a lot. It's an unbelievable advantage that you can have if you're a DDS. If I'm a DDS and I am entrepreneurial, I can buy another dental practice, whereas a regular person off the street cannot. As such, the opportunity for a DDS or a DMD,
thank you,
who is an entrepreneurial thinker and willing to take a few risks is virtually unstoppable.
Still, even with the groups flying around.
Even with the groups, especially with the groups. Because if I'm Dr. Smith and I own 1 or 2 practices, Dr. Jones down the street or in the next town wants to sell. Most people in America cannot buy that business. The only people who can buy it are DDS or DMDs. That reduces the price that gets paid. That makes the acquisition a lot easier if you're a DDS DMD.
Right.
And I think it's
entry is much easier. Cost of entry is not blocked.
Absolutely.
Right.
There are very few businesses in America that have such a, as Warren Buffett would say, such a competitive moat around them. Now, I'm not sure that works for a PE firm, but I am sure it works for a DDS DMB.
Yes, it does.
So I always
Love with that mid-market. So that bit. I'm in love with mid-market. 5 to 10 offices. I love the 5 offices because you can touch it every day. So when you go to 10, it's a different animal. I've dealt with that. I've dealt with mid-market is where I've played. It's very interesting. I still think that is also for another reason. I think the PE firms have gotten spooked on those big numbers. And I think now the most attractive buys out there are the 5 to 10.
absolutely.
Because they're easy to buy. They're not these $100 million, $20 million to buy. You can buy them. You can really, it's easy to manage and you have that doctor involved. I think that is more of an attractive, but if you keep it, it's just an annuity that's going to be with you for so long. I can tell you as somebody who sold a group, I miss it. I mean, the money is great. I miss it. And, I think all of us want to be relevant. All of us want to make the decisions for our patients, our teams. I think you bring in just a totally different perspective and very enlightening.
I would say 100% to what you say. What I also want to say is the number one mistake that dentists make that I see is this one, and I'll share it. I'm in love with mid-markets with 5 to 10 practices. The number one mistake that dentists make is a second practice. I'm a big fan of a second practice if you're on the road to 5. The number one mistake I see dentists make is they think they want to have 5. They open a second one. They get very frustrated with the second one because the second one, by definition, is the hardest one. You don't have the infrastructure to really do it very well. You're never in the right place. It's very frustrating. You have to work your way through the second to get to the third and the fourth. So when I get asked all the time, I say only open a second practice if you're on the road to opening 5 or 6. But don't open a second practice if you just think it's a great idea or you're not sure it's a good deal. Don't do it. 2 practices is the hardest model to run. When you get to 3 or 4 practices, now
The infrastructure.
now you're going to hire a good office man, right? Now you've got enough infrastructure to make it work. And then once you get past 5 or 6, you're building another set of infrastructure, which is really going to which you can leverage and make really work well. But I see a lot of dentists don't think really clearly about that. They end up with 2 practices. They end up very frustrated. They end up torn in a number of directions, and they never are happy. And then they never go to 3 or 4.
That's amazing.
So only buy a second if you're going to go to 4.
It used to be a saying, only buy a second when your first is doing at least $1 million. And only because then you have enough revenue to really secure that you can put the money that you need, not from that practice, but whatever you do in the effort to build that.
All right,
but you're 100% right. I see a lot of dentists wanting to get into the group. I think they're jumping before they really should. But at the same token, there's so much value in the mentorship programs and the ability to find people like the Chuck Cohens of Benco and the Dr. Marc Liechtungs of Dentistry Beyond the Numbers to really pick their brains. I'm big on mentorship. I'm big on the people like yourself have really paved the way for understanding dental office so much better than, some of us that are in the mouths. We understand the day to day. I can tell you that we're looking at Overjet in some practices. I love that idea. I love it for making dentists better, making patients believe, and Overjet has this orange color and it's almost a watch. And I think when dentists can literally say, we're going to watch that, that is the whole thing. We're looked at as mouth mechanics, and we have to have something that we could use to sort of dismay the always work. We're keeping an eye on it. I think it's an unbelievable amount of information you left us with today. It's really great. I know it's just something you do, but
glad to do it.
But Benco should be really, God willing, in this profession for many years. I hope 200 years with you somewhere on a beach. But
Very much.
I really appreciate the time, Chuck.
Thank you for the interview, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
What makes the podcast like this work is good questions and good moderating.
Thank you, and really acknowledge the guests.
That's
easier, but yeah, knowledgeable guests. Sir, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Anyway, everybody, that was Mr. Chuck Cohen, family business Benco. I got to tell you got me to really want to reach out, speak to Benco about our offices, see what they could do to help. I thank him so much. I learned so much today, and we'll see you next time on Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. Thank you. Wow. I feel like I just went through about a half hour, 45 minutes of dental MBA. I mean, Chuck Cohen knew so many things that I threw at him from a DSO or a DPO perspective, or as a private practice owner. The rise that's going to happen with these tariffs where it's an unknown, could be a little bit of a rise or a raise in our costs and a lower in our EBITDA. But let's see. Let's see what happens down the road. Chuck is a little fearful of that. But what an amazing address of the larger groups to the mid-market groups and explaining those mid-market groups and how today he feels that the private practice is making a resurgence. Really great stuff. I'm so happy that Chuck this came on. I really, really enjoyed speaking to him, and I think you're going to learn. And if you didn't, call me, ping me, let me know what you feel. But I think that was an unbelievable episode and a wealth of knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Chuck Cohen and Benco.